The HSE Drugs Group has decided to recommend that a drug to treat Friedreich's ataxia should not be paid for by the state. Now, Friedreich's ataxia is a life-limiting, rare genetic condition. It causes progressive damage to the nervous system. I'm joined in the studio by the Director of the National Centre for Pharmacoeconomics, Professor Michael Barry. You're welcome to the programme,
Thanks,
Michael. Regular listeners to the programme will know that we've covered this extensively. We've spoken to people here who have Friedreich's ataxia. We've spoken to a man in the United States who is taking this drug, Skyclarys. He told us about his positive experience on this drug. And I know some of the patients who've been really devastated by this news which emerged yesterday evening. Can you explain why the decision has been taken by the drugs group? I understand that you're not a member of it, but that you inform some of their decision making from a technical point of view.
Yes, indeed. There are a number of stages in the assessment process, and we're just one part of that. And we provide an economic evaluation to the drugs group, but they consider a whole host of other aspects, for example, unmet need, if there are other alternative treatments, etc. I mean, I think that it has to be acknowledged, the severity of Friedreich's ataxia, and I think this was foremost to the members of drugs group. They struggled with this one. This was a difficult one, and they were very much aware of the challenges. And certainly, we've heard lots of testimonies recently highlighting the severity of the condition.
So you were in the room while they were making their decision?
Yeah. I would provide technical support if there was a question in relation to the economic evaluation. I'm not a member of the drugs group, and I don't vote, and that's because you can't really participate in two parts of the assessment process, which is right and proper.
But your view was that it was too expensive, weighed against the effectiveness of it.
Yes, when we issued our report on the 16th of December last year, we came to the conclusion that yes, we always weigh up the benefits of the drug and the costs, and we felt it wasn't cost effective at the time. But that, as I say, that's just one part of the process. I should say as well, it's not all about money, and it's about the effectiveness of the drug. So I think I would make the distinction between, look, we have a very severe condition. There's no question about that, and nobody has said anything other than that. I think it's how valuable and how effective is this drug therapy for this very severe condition, and that's the issue. Now, from our point of view, you're right. We did say that it was not cost effective, but then the drugs group then consider it at the next stage, and they consider a whole host of areas, as I say, unmet need, any alternative treatments, the severity of the condition, etc. And they have considered this now on two meetings in great detail, I should say. And following the first meeting, they then invited the Rare Diseases Technology Review Committee to provide them with further details, just in case there was any other further evidence that hadn't been considered. And that's a reasonable step in my view. And so the Rare Diseases Technology Review Committee were in favour of Skyclarys or omaveloxolone. And then it comes back to the drugs group, which was yesterday, and they again go through all the details and come to a recommendation, and that's what it is. It's a recommendation.
And ultimately a decision will be taken by the senior leadership team
Correct.
at the HSE, which is coming, we understand, on the 25th of August.
Yes.
Just when you talk about the effectiveness, my understanding is that this is not a cure. It slows down the progression of Friedreich's ataxia. Is it that you don't accept that assertion, that it slows it down?
Well, first of all, our take on it from the National Centre was that we were clear that it didn't reduce mortality, it didn't reduce the complications associated with Friedreich's ataxia, particularly the cardiac ones. And then there's debate around the disease progression, and mainly because some of the evidence there was comparing disease progression in the trial population with historical controls, and there are a lot of scientific issues in relation to that, whether you're comparing like with like. I happen to think that you're not. And it's well rehearsed, as it were, the difficulties in using historical controls as the comparator. it may be, there may be an indication that it would do so. It's hard to quantify that. And even in the trial itself, the MOXIE Part 2 trial, there was an improvement of 2.4 points on the 93-point scale. And that's the Friedreich's ataxia rating scale modified. And the question is, what does that actually mean in terms of effectiveness? So we felt, we didn't say it didn't work. We're just not sure of the shall we say, the amount of efficacy that you can get with this drug. And of course, it's balanced always with what you're being charged for the drug and the budget.
Right. Okay. And there's that issue, which we'll come to in a moment. But you have what you're saying about the effectiveness balanced against people like Emily Felix, who are having to Emily's using a voice bank now because she feels that she's losing her voice. You have the gentleman in America I spoke to who says, the progression of my disease has slowed as a result of taking this. And if you could offer that to somebody who is facing a future like Emily is facing, why wouldn't you take it?
Yes, and I suppose in relation to the evidence, there was another important piece of evidence. It's the Cochrane Review, and these are very esteemed assessments. And the Cochrane Review on Friedreich's ataxia drugs was published only a few months ago. And it concluded that pharmacological treatments probably make little or no difference compared with placebo after 12 months of treatment. So you have this uncertainty. You have the uncertainty about the evidence. But yes, I mean, if you have Friedreich's ataxia and there's a medication there, of course you will wish to avail of it in an attempt to improve your outcome.
But you're one of the people saying no, you can't have it.
Yes, I suppose in our situation, we have to consider all the wider implications, and that is the opportunity cost. And I know it's not what people want to hear, but the demands on the HSE are huge at the moment. And even if we stay with the drugs field, we're talking about things like gene therapies. We're talking about, say, Zolgensma for spinal muscular atrophy, which, €2 million per patient. We made that available. CAR T-cell therapy for cancer. We've made that available. So it's really trying to get the best that you can out of the resources that are available. And Claire, if there was no such thing as limited resources or a finite healthcare budget, we wouldn't be having this conversation. And unfortunately, there are very, very hard decisions to be made. And I can tell you that the drugs group and members, really, really consider this in great detail. As I say, they even had 2 meetings, and it's hard to get across just how important that they took all the aspects.
There are other countries, though, in Europe that have decided to pay for this drug. 10 or 11, as I understand it. Do you speak to your colleagues in those other jurisdictions about their assessments and why they made the decision? And have you spoken to them about your decision not to fund it?
Well, I would have a lot of contacts with similar agencies around Europe simply because of working down through the years in the area. You're right, there are some European countries that are making the drug available. I think, though, that there are real difficulties when you start to compare drugs being made available in other European countries for a number of reasons. First of all, we don't know what the pricing is in those countries. I'm assuming it's probably similar, but I don't know because there's no transparency. Not because we don't want you to know, but because that's the way pharma work. The other issue is how is it made available? For example, in Ireland, if we approve a drug, it's universally available to everybody. In some countries, it might be available for a limited number of people. It might be available to those with insurance cover. So it's very
not like with like.
No, it's not. It sometimes it is a little bit comparing apples and oranges in relation to international comparisons.
But just what you say about, we don't know what Biogen are charging these other jurisdictions. Given that we're operating within the EU, should there not be an EU-wide competency now to negotiate a standard price on these drugs?
Yes, I can see the validity of that argument. Personally, I would love to see more transparency. I have no problem with that at all. I'd love to be able to tell you what price that Biogen was really offering the HSE for this drug. I can't, because I would find myself in great difficulties over that legally.
Well, we have a quoted figure, don't we, of €280,000
Yeah,
per patient.
that's the list price.
Are you saying that that's not accurate?
I'm saying that's accurate as a list price, but of course there's always negotiated prices.
Is it less or more than that
It's
price?
usually less than that. And this is where we get great variability. Some companies will reduce the prices significantly by well over 50%, sometimes 60, 70%. Unfortunately, that's not what we're seeing here. And, you know, the HSE doesn't set the price for these drugs. The company does. And also the HSE doesn't provide the evidence. The company does. And I would have liked to see Biogen doing better in this situation.
So even though you're not sure how effective it is, you're saying if it was cheaper, you might have said yes to it.
Well, it wouldn't have been my place yesterday in Drugs Group, because I'm not a member. I mean, whether they'd have
But
made
on the
a
money
recommendation.
side, you're
On
the
the money
expert.
side, yeah. I mean, if you look at say, for instance, in Holland, their agency, similar to ours, they suggested that an 84% price reduction would be required to render it anywhere near value for money. So there's no doubt you're dealing with substantial discounts. Would that have made a difference? It's hard to know. It may well have, but we'll never know,
Well,
because we haven't.
it doesn't change your view on the effectiveness of it.
It
So even if it
doesn't.
was reduced by that amount, let's say, you have to know it works.
I think yes, and we never said it didn't work. It's the uncertainty around it, and I think this is always the issue: is how do you relate the added benefit to the cost that's been attached to the drug, and that's the challenge. That's the real challenge, and that's why this decision, this recommendation, was so difficult.
Because you will have people listening to this, people who are dealing with this problem in their own families, saying, well, look, it's 280,000 by 200 people. You know, why can't we do it? We're awash with money in this country.
We are, maybe. I think the issue for us is that A, it didn't prove cost effective. B, that the budget impact was, we've published it at about 134 million. I personally think it's around 160 million euro over 5 years. To put that into context, for new drugs each year, for all the therapeutic areas, we have about 30 million euro. So that gives you some idea of the challenges if you go and invest in a product like this, which has a really high budget impact.
There's another issue which has been raised in the midst of all of this, and it's about the length of time that these decisions are taking. It's supposed to be 6 months, isn't it? But we're 2 years on from when this drug first came in for consideration in August of 2024. Why the delays?
I'm very happy to speak to the delays, and I've been saying for some time that the delays are, it's instructive to look into the details of that. This drug was approved by the European Medicines Agency on the 9th of February 2024. That's 30 months ago. 30 months. And it's quite right to say, what happened in between? What happened in the last 30 months? Our assessment process took 145 days. That accounts for 16% of that time. So what accounts for the rest of it? Well, I'll tell you. The company, it took them 6 months to seek actually a pricing reimbursement. It took them another 9 months to get the evidence to us. And then it took 210 days to negotiate a price. I mean, I would contend that in this particular case, and indeed in other cases, the majority of the time that has elapsed is down to the company themselves. As I say, we're very clear. The NCP in this case took 145 days. I'd like it to be faster, of course I would. But
you're saying the delays are coming from the drug company.
They are. The facts are there. I mean, they're published on our website very clearly.
What would you say to Emily Felix, to Craig Coady, who's lost one son, his other son is deteriorating? What do you say to those people today? You know that they're devastated.
Yeah, I do. I don't think anyone is anyone is happy with the recommendation. I've been involved in this for over 30 years now, and we've had difficult situations in the past, particularly with cancer drugs. But I think in the world where there are finite resources, we've got to make a recommendation. That's our job, to make a recommendation. I fully realize that, when you have a very severe condition, that you want access to the drug. Now, I probably would be no different myself. But there are difficult decisions. And as I said, if we had an unlimited budget, then we wouldn't be having the conversation.
Mm.
And yes, but it happens across medicine. Every day there are difficult decisions to be made in relation to treatment of patients. It's not just in relation to medicines, and that's what we deal with.
I mentioned the senior leadership team at
Yeah,
the HSE will make a final decision on the 25th of August.
correct.
There's also significant political pressure around this. Micheál Martin has met some of the people with Friedreich's ataxia who are calling for this drug. The Minister for Health has made comment on it as well, being careful to respect the process. But this isn't the end. I mean, this decision could be reversed.
It's quite possible, I suppose. All we can do is do our job, do it as to the best of our ability. Similarly with the drugs group, to evaluate and look at all the evidence, and then come up with a recommendation. So I think that's what we've seen play out up to now in the journey of this drug through the process. People have been open and transparent, and they have done the best assessments that they possibly can. Look, if there's a political, shall we say, involvement, that's beyond me.
So you're saying your job is done. Whatever decision is taken after this point will be down to others.
Absolutely, it's definitely yes.
But will you have to find the money in your budget to pay for it if your decision on this is reversed?
Well, if it was made that this drug would be, if it was decided that this drug would be made available, yes, indeed, it will cost a lot of money. As we said, it's 134 million officially. My own feeling is it's 160 million. That will have to be found. And you see, Claire, the challenges just keep on coming, because next month the drugs group will be looking at Mounjaro. Now that's coming with a budget impact if the license indication, if it was made available, of 5.2 billion. So
annually,
over 5 years.
Over 5
so,
years.
So that gives you an idea that these difficult decisions come month after month to the drugs group, and none of it is easy.
Okay. Professor Michael Barry, thank you very much for being with us. Michael Barry is head of the National Centre for Pharmacoeconomics. I mentioned that we have covered this story in great detail over the last couple of months, and among those we have spoken to is Craig Coady. And those familiar with Craig's story will know that Craig lost 13-year-old Rory, his son, to Friedreich's ataxia last September, and Paudie, who's 16, also has the condition. Craig, you're welcome to the programme. Can I ask you firstly, what's your reaction to what you've heard from Michael this morning?
Morning, Claire. Quite a few uncertainty there with him on the drug. I saw some report this morning as well that was given that the decision, there was a few uncertainties on it. So basically, he's not really sure how the Skyclarys drug works. Has he met people on the Skyclarys drug? You had Richie yourself on your station a couple of months back, and he said himself it was a game changer. He's 46 years of age.
That's right. Just to remind people, Richie's living in the United States and he's taking Skyclarys, and he said it had helped him.
So everyone I have spoken to in Italy, I've spoken to someone in Poland. They were very positive with it. So has he actually sat down with them and asked them how tell me about this drug? How is it working on your body? So as I said, there was a few uncertainties there with him. Look, Claire, I wouldn't be fighting this campaign if I felt this drug wasn't working. Look, I'm still in the middle of grieving with my son Rory, so I have a lot going on. But I'm very disappointed, and it's look, end of the day, Claire, it's down to money. Now, I did speak to a TD that spoke with, it was a function they were out, and he met the chief of Biogen, and the price is the same as in Europe.
Hmm. In other countries that have decided to fund it.
Yes.
Listen, as we've been hearing this morning, it's not the end of the story, though. We have the 25th of August when the senior leadership team of the HSE will meet ultimately to make the final decision on this. But also we have politics involved as well. And I know you had a meeting with Micheál Martin, which you felt was very positive. I mean, do you feel you're at the end of the road now, or do you still have hope?
Look, when they tell me the door is closed, there's always hope. So look, we've 2 weeks to speak to the TDs. Look, Micheál Martin and the Minister of Health, they really need to get behind this and overturn this. You know, we've money for other stupid things. Look, there's important things as well, but we waste a lot of money on other things as well. So it's just hard for me to listen to Michael Barry there, because the bottom line, it's down to money. So basically, he's saying my son is not worth it. And the 200 patients in Ireland with Friedreich ataxia, do I say that to my son?
Well, in fairness to Michael, an assessment is made on the effectiveness of the drug, and I hear what you're saying.
He did say uncertainty too on it, Claire.
Yes, no,
so he's not sure.
Yeah.
But I have spoken to people, and you have, that are on the Skyclarys, and they say it's a game changer.
Mm-hmm.
And plus, it's a foundation for the future, because weren't they in this situation a couple of years ago with cystic fibrosis? So they declined it, but they passed it. It was the public that passed it at the end. It was the people of Ireland got behind it, and haven't they come out with a better drug than a month ago?
Yeah, well, look, let's see what happens over the next 2 weeks. Have you? I mean, we've spoken before on this, and I've had the same conversation with Emily. I mean, it's hard to find the energy, I'm sure, to keep going with this when you feel like the doors are closing all of the time.
Yeah.
Can you keep pushing?
I have to, Claire. Look, Paudie, he's all I've left, as you're aware. The boy's mum. Rory is no longer with us. So look, he's all I've got left, and it will come a stage. Look, it is mentally draining me. It is, and to see Paudie every day, and to say to me yesterday evening, it wasn't good news. I didn't see a face like that until the day Rory passed. So it's really not fair. Like it's just like we wouldn't treat an animal like this.
Mm-hmm.
So like if it's down to money, they can get money quickly for other things. So I'm begging the government to get behind this and get this overturned. And please, please help us, like.
All right, Craig. Well, listen, we'll keep in touch with you. Let's see what happens over the coming weeks. Thank you for joining us again on the programme. That's Craig Coady.